Good morning, children. We are doing the lesson The Enemy from Vista's book, and we read day before yesterday that Sadav was promised by the general that he would send the assassins to his house. Now let's see what happens. We are on page number 41, children. He left the general's presence then and went home, thinking over the plan. In this way, the whole thing would be taken out of his hands. He would tell Hannah nothing. And since she would be timid at the idea of assassins in the house, as usually the women are, and yet certainly such persons were essential in an absolute state such as Japan was. How else could rulers deal with those who opposed them? So, as if it was very necessary for the general in an absolute state like Japan to keep assassins with him, this would not be understood by Hana, and so Sadav decided not to tell her anything about them. He refused to allow anything but reason to be the atmosphere of his mind as he went into the room where the American was in bed. But as he opened the door, to his surprise, he found the young man out of bed and preparing to go into the garden. "What is this?" he exclaimed. "Who gave you permission to leave your room?" "I am not used to waiting for permission," Tom said gaily, means happily, in a good mood. "Shh, I feel pretty good again. But will the muscles on this side always feel stiff?" "Is it so?" Sadav inquired, surprised. He forgot all else. "Now I thought I had provided against that," he murmured. It means that he thought that he has given a proper medication and treatment for that. Therefore, there should be no stiffening of the muscles. But still, the patient is feeling, and therefore, see, Sadav forgot everything else, and what he is doing? He lifted the edge of the man's shirt and gazed at the healing scar. "Massage may do it," he said, "if exercise does not." "It won't bother me much," the young man said. His young face was gaunt under the stubbly blonde beard. "Say, doctor, I have got something I want to say to you. If I hadn't met a Jap like you, well, I wouldn't be alive today. I know that." So Tom feels that if he would have not found a Japanese doctor like Sadav, he would not be living in this world. Especially this kind of man who saved his life out of forsaking or giving importance to his own life. And Sadav and his wife were not afraid also to be called traitors, and they still helped out. Therefore, Tom was very happy about it. And see the dilemma, children. On one side, he has arranged the murder of the enemy Tom, and on the other side, he is helping out this man. Sadav bowed, but he could not speak. "Sure, I know that," Tom went on warmly. His leg thin, hands gripping on chair, were white at knuckles. "I guess if all the Japs were like you, there wouldn't have been a war." Underline this, children. This is very important. "Perhaps," Sadav said with difficulty. "And now I think you had better go to bed." He helped the boy back into bed and then bowed. "Good night," he said. Sadav slept badly that night. We know the reason. Assassins were to come as he was assuming. Time and time again he woke, thinking he heard the rustling of footsteps, the sound of a twig broken, or a stone displaced in the garden, a noise such as men might make who carried a burden. The next morning he made the excuse to go first into the guest room because he wanted to find out if assassins had come and murdered Tom, and taken away the dead body. So he went first into the room. If the American were gone, he then could simply tell Hannah that so the general had directed. But when he opened the door, he saw at once that there on the pillow was a shaggy blonde head. He could hear the peaceful breathing of sleep, and he closed the door again quietly. He is asleep, he told Hannah. He is almost well. To sleep like that means now he is well. What shall we do with him? Hannah whispered her old refrain. Again and again she asked her husband the same question. Sadao shook his head. I must decide in a day or two, he promised. Why? Because he has already got a promise from the general. But certainly, he thought, the second night must be the night. There rose a wind that night, and he listened to the sounds of bending bows and whistling partitions. Hannah woke too. Ought we not to go and close the sick man's partition? She asked. No, Sadao said. He is able now to do it for himself. You know the reason why he was not allowing his wife to move. But the next morning the American was still there. Then the third night, of course, must be the night. The wind changed to quiet rain, and the garden was full of the sound of dripping eaves and running springs. Sadao slept a little better, but he woke at the sound of a crash and jumped to his feet. What was that? Hannah cried. The baby woke at her voice and began to wail. Wail means cry. I must go and see. But he held her and would not let her move because Sadao was thinking that assassins were there in his house to take Tom, to murder him and take his dead body. Sadao, she cried, what is the matter with you? Don't go, he muttered, don't go. His terror infected her and she stood breathless, waiting. There was only silence. Together they crept back into the bed, the baby between them. Yet when he opened the door of the guest room in the morning, there was the young man. He was very gay, very happy, and had already washed and was now on his feet. He had asked for a razor yesterday and had shaved him, and today there was a faint color in his cheeks. I am well, he said joyously. Sadao drew his kimono round his weary body. Tom was well, but Sadao was very tired because he had got sleepless nights. He could not, he decided suddenly, go through another night. It was not that he cared for this young man's life. No, simply, it was not worth the strain. So Sadao did not care for the enemy's life, but actually he could not go through the strain that he was undergoing.